How's it going, everybody? Bryan, Alvarez, and Lance Storm here on Figure 4 Daily. It is December 15, 2018, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. And hey, video.f4wonline.com. Lance is over here in Vinny's chair today, playing the role of Vinny. You're exactly his size, just everything is proportioned differently.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Live in studio. Just got here, half hour ago?
Yeah, I just picked you up at the airport. It's a nice long flight.
Yeah.
What time did you wake up?
3:30 your time is when I got up this morning, yeah.
He's doing a Q&A tonight.
Yeah, and it was Rodney that picked me up because Bryan didn't want to get up.
I did not want to get up. I went to bed late, and it's better for everybody that Rodney picked you up.
Yeah, but you didn't want to get up.
No, of course I didn't want to get up. Are you kidding me? All right, let's get into this news here. We got a lot to get into. If you want to watch this show, as noted, video.f4wonline.com. And by the way, good week to sign up for the video site, because not only do you get the usual Bryan and Vinny shows, but you're getting the Christmas show this month, video.f4wonline.com. We're filming it on Sunday. Lance is going to be here. Filthy's going to be here. Craig, Vinny, who else? Granny, I think, is going to do a run-in. It's going to be very, very hot in this studio.
And is that the anniversary? Wasn't the Christmas show last year the kickoff of the video?
Yeah, it was. I thought you were thinking about the anniversary of the Christmas show. I don't think, I forget I think we did it in 2005.
Well, every Christmas would be the anniversary.
Well, it might be the 10-year anniversary, for example.
But it's the 1-year anniversary.
It is the 1-year anniversary of video, yes. Virtually every Bryan and Vinny show since last year's Christmas show is up. Not all of them. Been a couple that haven't gone up, but... All right, so let's do this news here. As everyone should be well aware by now, on Monday, Vince McMahon returns to television, and he's going to shake things up. What do you think is going to happen, Lance?
I don't know. I'm hoping to God that Baron loses on Sunday, and he's going to give us our new official person. Maybe he'll fire him officially and name a new GM or something. I don't know.
Yep.
But they need to do something. The fact that they actually admitted last week in an angle that our show's bad and fewer people are watching it.
Yes.
I always shake my head. It's like the angle's been done. You know, WCW did it so many times. TNA did it so many times. And I know we're bad, but we're going to turn it around angle, I don't think has ever worked.
Never.
No.
No.
So
I don't remember any promotion ever that told you that they sucked, ending up like turning that into an angle that worked.
Like Renee at one point actually said, we have to right this ship. And it's like,
yes.
Wow, you're now the Titanic going down. It's like, it's not that bad. You know, there's definitely some changes that need to be made. And in storyline, I suppose they're more dumping it all on Baron Corbin. But when you point out the ratings, and that's too, and it was very, very WCW-ish, and we're watching it, you know, every week, Retro Tuesdays, where does the vast majority of your audience know that the ratings are at an all-time low? I don't think so. So I don't know why we point that out.
No, because we watch those retro shows, and like every now and then something will happen on the show, and I remember why, like what was happening in real life that necessitated them saying that. But looking back, I don't remember. And they come on TV and they mention it, and it's just like, I forgot that was happening in the real world. But like if you're just watching the show, I don't know how many fans know the ratings are down. I mean, maybe this audience does, because you're down to the hardest of the hardcores. But like, I still don't understand. Here's the other thing, too, to think about. Everyone has been talking about how bad the show is, and every now and then I get these text messages going, Vince has finally turned into Vince Russo. He's finally become Vince Russo. And I'm like, well, it's not that bad yet, but I understand what you're saying. Like, he's not the old Vince. And if everyone recalls correctly, every time Vince Russo... Not every time. It wasn't quite as good as I thought this time around, but usually, every time something goes wrong or Vince Russo comes back or whatever, he does a reset show. You know those reset shows? And the reset shows are usually pretty good. But then the next week comes. So the point of this is, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if like Vince showed up on Monday and he fired Baron Corbin and maybe he debuted a few guys and he really shook the thing up, and he gave us some matches that we really want to see, and he gave us some happy endings, and the show ends and everyone's really excited. Just if that happens, everybody should remember there's still got to be another show next week. And the week after. The week after.
That's the thing. And when people compare it to, 99 WCW, they're crazy. Because I don't think it's that Raw is a bad show.
I do.
It's just a very, but I mean.
It's a bad show right now.
But it's uneventful. It's generally not a happy show. Yeah. So it's not fun to watch. And it's not different and exciting every week. But it's not like you're shaking your head most times at, oh my God, why are they doing this? It's usually, it's Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler again. Or it's a beatdown again. It's repetitive and it's not fresh.
Yeah, but Lance, what about when Ziggler pins Drew McIntyre? Or Natalia's out there talking about her dead father's sunglasses. I mean, there's a lot of shit on that show that is bad.
Yeah, but
it's not bad necessarily start to finish.
But it's bad in a different way than the 99 Nitros because...
Yes, they're worse.
Because Dolph pinning Drew is bad if you sit back as a booker and go, I wouldn't have done that. But if you're just a fan going, hey, that was fun, it's a different level of bad rather than when you're sitting there going, who is that and what's going on? Bad, which is, 99 Nitros. But yeah, we have to give a happy ending, so we'll let Dolph win this week, and then you have to the following week undo that because that's not what you wanted in the first place. And that's where a 1 week fix of let's give him happy endings this week, let's fire Drew,
Corbin.
Bartender Corbin this week. That's okay for a yay, we get a pop, and we can all go yay Vince, but there needs to be a long-term change of some kind. And my biggest thing, and we've talked about it, it's just there needs to be less heat. There needs to be baby faces that are portrayed as baby faces, heroes we can get behind. Look at all the popularity of all the Marvel shows. It's like the heroes win in them all.
Well, not only that, but somebody mentioned yesterday in a text message, they said that every Marvel movie, there are superheroes and supervillains. There are good guys and bad guys. There are barely any good guys in WWE. They're all bad guys. Half the good guys, you don't even know if they're actually good guys or not. They're just like crazy people.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've been screaming about forever, and it's the misunderstanding or just idiocy of there's no heels and baby faces anymore. They're all shades of gray, and I've been screaming this forever. It's like Steve Austin was a complex character. And he had parts of his personality that may not be the traditional white meat 80s babyface, but he was the hero.
He was a babyface.
Yes. And Eddie Guerrero, even though he was lying, cheating, and stealing, he was a babyface.
Yes.
But I think there's those, and we won't name the head of those people, that think that it's all shades of gray, they're all tweeners, and it's like, no, you still need a protagonist and an antagonist. It's just the definitions have changed, and I think we need to get those proper protagonists again and protect them, and that's something that I've throughout my career and now as a trainer, when you get a babyface that's over, you have to protect that. Heels can always get their heat back. You don't have to protect the heels as much. And I think that's...
You barely have to protect him at all.
Yeah, because you can always get your heat back. But a babyface, when he's really, really over, is the most valuable thing in the world. And when you look at, Bruno for 11 years and Hogan for his run and Austin for his run, it's like when you have that over babyface, that's generally when business is good and what you have to protect most. And unfortunately, and I think this is the real downfall with WWE currently, is the fact that they've been so caught up in Roman. And it was a friend of mine I was talking to, and he was talking about when the last time Dean comes back from an injury, and they immediately put him in the Shield with Roman to give Roman the rub, and he minimized the value of Dean Ambrose a little bit. And Seth Rollins had a string there where he was like, best match on Raw. He was getting really over as a babyface, and they second fiddled him to Roman in the Shield to get Braun over. And when they turned, to get Roman over, when they turned Braun heel briefly and put him with Drew and Ziggler just so they could use the Shield to get Roman over, you took about 5 or 6 of your top 7 guys and you reduced their value for Roman, and now Roman's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was a gamble that really came back to bite him in the ass, because you sacrificed your number 2, your number 3, and your number 4 babyface for the number 1 guy, and then the number 1 guy went away. Now, obviously, it's not their fault, but you have to lie in the bed that you made.
Well, it's not their fault, but like anybody can go at any time. You never know what's going to happen. Like they're always looking for their number 1 top babyface or whatever, but like the hottest period they ever had, they had 2. They had Steve Austin and The Rock. There was no number 1 and number 2 with Austin and The Rock. I mean, maybe Austin was a little higher on the pecking order because he was always a babyface. Rock turned heel and back and that sort of thing, but they had 2 huge potential babyface stars at the same time. Now they got none. And if they put everything behind Roman, they would have had 1 that was getting booed. I think the biggest problem they have right now is actually, it is The Rock. Because, I mean...
It's all his fault.
It's not his fault. I mean, I'm putting the guy over. The Rock was so good, they did every stupid thing to The Rock, and he was still over. Because there's only one Rock, like, in a lifetime. But they were so stupid that they were like, oh, man, we can beat any top guy. Like, we can make any top guy do stupid stuff.
I hate to do this to you. It's a bit of a spoiler for Retro Tuesday coming up.
Oh, no.
Guess who pins The Rock?
Bob Holly.
Al Snow.
Oh, fuck. That's the whole problem. Like, they had this top guy that was completely bulletproof, and they beat him. They had him say stupid shit. They put him in dumb matches, and he kept getting more and more over. And so that was like their thing. Oh, whoever it is, John Cena, whoever, we can beat them. They'll still be strong afterwards. No, you had one guy that you could pull that off with in history.
It was The Rock.
They couldn't have done that with Hogan. They couldn't have done that with Bruno. They couldn't have done that with Austin. They couldn't have done that with anybody. And because of this one guy for fucking 19 years now, they've been just beating their baby faces, and none of them can get back over again.
No, it's crazy, and that's where too with
Al Snow. I can't watch this show.
Oh, you're gonna blow your mind,
dude. Oh, I gotta say this, by the way, because I put the stipulation on it about Corbin. So you realize, in order for Corbin to get fired, he has to beat Strowman. Because the stipulation is, if Strowman wins, he's out of there. So there's no reason for Vince McMahon to fire Corbin unless he beats Braun Strowman. So I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that he beats Strowman and comes out there, and then Vince says you're fired.
Well, if they're getting rid of him, sure to God they're not going to beat Braun.
Well, they won't really get rid of him. Like, they'll get rid of him for 2 weeks.
But Vince can just name the replacement.
Yeah.
And realistically, because everybody loves the "you're fired," Braun can show up and plead his case to Vince that it wasn't fair. He didn't think Braun was going to show up. I wasn't really prepared. Give me one more shot, Vince. And then Vince can do the, heaven forbid, we'll do the swerve promo where he thinks he's considering it. And then finally he'll look at him and do the classic, "you're fired." Because that's Vince's catchphrase. It's his big thing. He's got to say that on the show.
Sure.
So
think about this. Like, it's already leaked that Kurt Angle's going to be there on Monday. So, like, I'm sure everybody's figuring, well, that means Braun's going to win. And then Kurt will be put in as a new GM. And that actually might be what's going on.
I hope not.
But to me, like, this is all leading to Corbin beating Braun. And dude, it's a TLC match. You could have 50 guys run in. Strowman's not supposed to be back.
But it's also a pinfall match.
Well, yeah, I guess.
It's not just because there's nothing hanging.
But look, Strowman has a bad elbow. He's not booked on any house shows. Like, he's not supposed to be back. So if he goes in there and Corbin and Drew and Lashley and whoever else comes out, and they all beat the guy down, Corbin beats him, and Strowman's gone for another 4 weeks to heal, Corbin wins. And then he shows up on Raw, and Vince fires him.
Well, if you're going to do that, you don't beat him. You win by forfeit, and you have all those guys making sure Braun can't get to the ring to start the match.
Yeah, you could do that.
And that way you can be like, if he's not in the ring by this time, it's a forfeit, and then just make sure he doesn't make it there. But that's terrible.
You could have Corbin in the ring celebrating that he's going to win by forfeit, and all of a sudden they hit Braun's music, and they cut backstage, and Braun's lurch into the ring. All the heels jump him. They beat the hell out of him backstage. And then he never makes it to the ring. Corbin wins via forfeit. And then the next day, Corbin gets fired. Do you think this is impossible?
I don't think it's impossible.
Are you kidding me?
But if he's healthy enough to do one power slam, it would be so
Well, maybe
much...
he's not.
Well, if he can't even do that, then yeah, you have to do something. But if he can at least throw one power slam or one move of any kind, at least give us the happy moment of him winning. Yeah, I know you're looking at me like a happy moment. We don't deserve those. Are you kidding me? It's...
What are we talking about here? This is an NXT.
Oh, who was I just talking again about happy moments? Somebody I was talking with, it doesn't matter who, but it's the classic thing they always do on the show where, you know, the combatants will be like, let's do this right now. And then the heel authority figure comes out and goes, it's like, no, these fans don't deserve it. They have to pay for it. It's going to be on pay-per-view. And I remember pointing out there was a time when I was in WWE, I was standing beside Bryan Gewirtz when they were doing this. And it's like, you know, I do this right now. The place is going crazy. And then whoever comes out and says, no, you have to pay for it. These fans don't deserve it. It's on pay-per-view. And the crowd just goes, boo. And I turned to Bryan and I'm like, why do we do that? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, why do we make all these people angry where they feel like they're getting screwed? And I said, you realize they pay to be here tonight. And you tell them they don't deserve this match. They have to pay for it. I'm like, why are we crapping on our fans? He's like, I never really thought about that. That's you know, it's a good point. And I'm like, yeah, where at least, and this is
I figured his answer would be that the fans that paid for tonight are the live studio audience. The 5 million people watching on TV, they didn't pay anything. They're the ones that have to pay.
But you're still crapping on at the time.
The people that showed up, that's why, do you remember, I don't watch this stupid Extra Attitude, okay? But, like, why doesn't the live crowd get Extra Attitude anymore? You know what I mean? Like in the 90s, you would promise something, but then you'd take it away and say, you got to pay for this on pay-per-view.
Well, don't they get a live dark match now?
Sometimes, but not always. In fact, a lot of times they don't. I've been to a lot of shows where, like, when it's over, that's it.
Well, I think they don't have the top babyface to do it.
Well, no, but I mean, the point is...
stay around for Roman Reigns to do one more hurrah for the crowd?
Well, the point is, like, you could promise Strowman versus Corbin and then say, no, you guys got to pay for it. Then when the show goes off the air, just give them the fucking match to the live people and a finish, and they all go home happy, but it doesn't count. At least give them something because they paid.
Yeah, but it's a 2-minute match because that's what those dark matches are. But
at least it's something. You see him in the ring.
But that's what was so great when again, Hogan, you always got the pose routine at the end of the show. Even if he got screwed and didn't get the win, well, he always did, but he got to pose. And Austin and Rock, they were so great. And the thing is, too, they used to do it partially to let the boys get out of the arena before the crowd.
Sure.
They'd end the main event, we could all leave, and then Austin and Rock could do the ad-lib for 5 or 10 minutes. The only problem is they were so damn entertaining, most of us stayed to watch it. And, you know, even when Rock left, Jericho did it with Austin a few times, and it's like, you've got to have that real charismatic babyface that's fun. And it's also a lot harder after 3 hours. People probably just want to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
But those, and again, you don't always watch them, but some of them, you know, there was that one that was like Austin and Hunter for, I think it was about 7 minutes.
Vinny loved that one.
Where they kept throwing the beer and Hunter couldn't catch them.
Yeah.
It was so great. Because Hunter, which is weird, because he's similar to me in a personality in that he's the straight guy that's all about the job and the work and stuff, but he's got such an amazing comedic timing.
He is a very funny guy.
He is. And he's really, unless you knew him, you wouldn't think he's a funny guy. But it was tremendous. And he takes like 9 stunners and the crowd goes home happy. And they don't get that as much anymore. And I just send them home wanting more has always been the key to good business. And I think with 3 hours, you don't get them wanting more. And we have so few happy moments. It's like we've got to get rid. And this is the other thing too. And I was going to get to it, and then you sidetracked me. It was if the heels are the ones that deny us the happy ending, but it's The Office now. It's Baron Corbin, and that's where.
No, it ain't Baron Corbin. It's WWE.
Well, yes, but Baron Corbin is the WWE representative currently. But since I'm trying to think of exactly when, but it's been somebody tweeted something about it's the only fans that will, want to hate the product that they're paying for. And I think you defended it's like they don't want to hate the product.
No.
But the thing is,
you're paying $80
but WWE
to go hate it.
But WWE has painted WWE main roster, Raw in particular, as the heel.
Yes.
Steph has come out, and I remember the one time she came out and did the, I'm just like each and every one of you, except for the money and the education. I'm just like, you wonder why people don't like you?
They portray themselves as heels.
And
then they get upset when you're upset with them.
Yeah. And that's, I always use Paul as my example. In ECW and Paul Heyman, the head of ECW, was always the eternal babyface.
Yeah, they were about the people.
No matter what happened. And I remember the one, it was Sabu no-showed. But I'm 90% sure it was Paul's fault. Sabu told Paul ahead of time he had a booking in Japan and couldn't make it, and Paul booked him and advertised him anyway. But he came out and apologized to the fans and buried Sabu and promised he'd make it up to them. We'll do whatever we can. And it's like the crowd was like cheering on Paul, going, yeah, screw Sabu, Paul, EC-Dub. And they were just so invested in the company that the company's the babyface. The fans love them. And it's not the fans, because look at NXT. They have such goodwill with their fan base because NXT as an entity is a babyface. William Regal's the authority figure, but what's his job? He tries to give the fans the matches they want.
Dude, think back in wrestling history. How many promotions have there ever been that are like heel promotions that actually succeeded? I can think of one. And it was WWE when Vince was the heel authority figure.
With Steve Austin.
And that was the only reason it worked, was because of Steve Austin. Vince didn't even want to be a character. Like, they had to drag him kicking and screaming into being the heel, because he probably knew, like, the guy running the company as a heel is, could be a bad idea. But luckily, I got this giant baby face that could play the role of the hero. But, like, other than that, when has there ever been a promotion? Think of every promoter.
A company.
In history.
It doesn't have to be a promoter, a company.
But it doesn't matter. Like the promoters, like the people behind the company, like the Crockett's or Paul Bosch or Sam Mushnick or any of them. When were they ever like a bad guy to the fans? Never. They were like the hero of the community. And they did everything. They tried to put the matches together you wanted. They came out here, they berated the heels, or they had an announcer that was in charge of doing that, or whatever. It was always like the company's the babyface. We're here for you people. And like every now and then some dastardly heels would do something and like we're gonna make some ruling and we'll show them. But of course they're diabolical, and so they'd figure something out to get their heat back. But it's always been like that. I can't think of one company, aside from that brief period where Vince was facing Austin, that has ever been like a heel company that's really been successful.
It's the only time. And it was when you had the hottest baby face.
Yeah.
And us too, because we
And
lived
even then, I don't want to interrupt you again, but how long did Vince go as a heel before he started to babyface himself again? It was like a year.
Yeah.
Remember?
And he was foiled 99% of the time.
Yeah, but then eventually, after like a year, he was like, I got to go back to like being a babyface here. And he actually went babyface. And then eventually he screwed Austin again. But like the point was, that was not like the whole Attitude Era. Like he saw it as hot for a year, and then he wanted to move it on to something else. Like he was going to be the babyface to run the company, and his asshole son was going to be the heel. But Vince McMahon, was still going to be the babyface owner. Like a year after this, he was going to do that. And then he ended up going back. But the point is, like, never has this worked.
Well, hopefully Monday. Now, I love Kurt, but I don't want it to be Kurt. Because to me,
Dude, I'm good with anybody.
But to me, it's just Kurt's going back. Because Kurt was the GM. He's only on hiatus or suspension or whatever the hell he is now. I don't even know. But this is where we want fresh. And I don't know if he'd be willing to do it, but it's like someone suggested Sting, and I'd be like, that'd be great for that.
Yeah.
It's showtime, folks. It's like bring Sting back as a nice character. And I would also...
He would be a great babyface GM.
And I would also be happy, because I don't know how busy the dude wants to be. It's like, do we need to have him there every week?
No.
I like William Regal in NXT is the great model. It's like, yeah, if there's a big announcement, bring him out. If there's a big controversy, bring him out. But...
And keep in mind, they tape like 5 shows in a row. He could be on every show. But they still don't put him on every show. Sometimes they just put up a tweet.
Yeah. And again, obviously Sting would be a million times better than Jack Tunney back in the day, but it's like he wasn't around all that much. If the company's running well, and you should paint the company as running well, you don't need the boss putting out fires every 5 minutes. And that's where, too, if you had a babyface authority, you could bring back stipulations meaning something.
It's in these stupid pay-per-views, or
ditch the theme pay-per-view. But we talk about it now where they announce the stipulation. That, well, even Braun, it's like he gets to pick the stipulation with him and Baron Corbin. He picks TLC. I'm like, why? Why does that help Braun?
It doesn't.
With a babyface authority figure, again, if I'm the babyface and you're the heel, we have some kind of outcome where you manage to cheat, screw me, or something else. The babyface authority goes, that's not right. We're going to add this stipulation so it's fair and the babyface will prevail. And then people watch whatever match for the sake of thinking it'll be resolved and the babyface will win. And it's like people, and that's, we talked about it once before. It's like, the heat draws the money. And it's like, well, no, the heat sets up the babyface's redemption drawing the money.
Yes.
That's why the chase draws money, is we want to see that payday. We want to see this guy crowned as champion. We want to see Lance Storm defeat Bryan Alvarez, and you'll pay to see that. And the idea is to make them think that. And it's an old Rip Rogers thing. It's like,
but you need a babyface.
Yeah, convince the fans of something they really want to see. Make them think they're going to get it on a big show. You charge them for it, and then you give it to them.
Yes,
and then they're happy.
Yes. You don't hint to a child they're going to get a certain present on Christmas, and hint and hint and hint, and then give them something else.
Not if you want.
Unless you want to be a shithead.
Not if you want Christmas to stay over.
Yes,
that's too. And I love the Christmas analogy because I always do that with the people that I think are poor bookers, where they talk about it's like the swerve. It's like, oh, it's a surprise. It's the only one we got left. It's like Christmas is one of the most popular holidays of all time. It's the same every damn year.
Because you make a damn list of what you want.
And you get it.
You get it.
But it's the same
every year.
You
don't make a list to get some different shit.
It's on the same date. You get together with the same people. You put up the same goddamn tree. You have the same meal for dinner. You open presents at the same time.
The same goddamn Christmas tree.
But you love it. Because you get what you want.
Yes.
It's like, how hard is that?
It's very hard, apparently.
Apparently it is.
Yes. Like a Christmas swerve would be, like, if you wanted two big things, okay? Let's say that I wanted a car and a house from Vince McMahon, my rich dad. And Vince goes, well, kid, well, pal, you'll get one of them at Christmas. You'll get one of them on your birthday. You don't know which one you're going to get. You're like, okay, well, fuck, I'll get one of them, right? Then the day comes, and if it's Vince Russo, I'd get, like, a boat, which I didn't ask for, and I hate water. Yeah. If Vince McMahon, I get both.
Yeah.
That's the swerve. I didn't expect to get both, but I got both. I'm swerved, but I'm happy. And it makes sense because of the two things that I wanted.
Yeah, or this, and I actually did this, and I use it in psychology in my class with talking about the swerve or the dip before the payoff. And it was actually at one Christmas, and it was my brother-in-law's wife at the time. She wanted whatever the hot gaming system was that year, probably like a PlayStation 1. And they didn't have a ton of money, so she didn't know she was going to get it. We got it for her. And she's opening the present. She peels the paper back and sees the box, and she pops. She's so happy. And because I'm a heel, I'm like, you might want to open the box first. And she got so crushed because she thought it was just in the box and something else was in it. So she was just bummed, a huge heat spot. So then she tears the paper off and she opens the box, and the game system's in it, and she popped twice as big the second time. It's like, we swerved her. But she
That was awesome.
But she still had a great day because she got her damn game system.
I can't wait to steal that one from Paisley. Not this year, though. She still doesn't know what's going on. A couple of years from now. What else could we do to fix this show, Lance? A new Mean Gene?
Yeah.
It can't be Renee, though. I see you wrote Renee. They've ruined her. We got to start over again.
And you know what? I think they've ruined her is a bit of a stretch.
No, she's pretty much ruined right now. They could probably rehab her if they moved her to SmackDown and started over.
Get her off the brand with Dean, because that's killing her.
Well, yeah,
once they've acknowledged that she's married to him, it gives her a conflict of interest on everything she talks about now.
But you know what's funny is they never acknowledged that on TV until they just decided that they were going to. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were never acknowledged as being married.
They hinted at it.
They
once in a
hinted
while,
at it,
and
but
then they
who
just
gives a
admit it.
shit? You didn't have to make that part of the story. You know, even like. Is Zelina Vega going to come on SmackDown and they're going to talk about how her husband's in NXT?
They might. Hope not.
Why the fuck do you need to bother doing that? You don't have to.
You don't. But
There's so much shit they don't have to do because it's fake and they have to do it. They can't help themselves.
Yeah. But Mean Gene used to be, probably still is, but he was an over-announcer. And I don't know if they don't want that now, but it's like, if I saw Mean Gene, it's like I'd pop. He had a personality, had a character.
We saw Mean Gene the other night on that rivalry show where he was talking about like Hogan and Piper. And he had like a 5-second thing that he said. It was fucking awesome. It was so, I remember what he said, but he was so great at being Mean Gene. You just couldn't help but listen to him.
And now, and it's not a shot at them, it's like, I don't know who's Charlie Caruso and who's Dasha and who's...
No, because they're all robots.
And they're just interchangeable people. And this is where, and it's a big thing to me, it's like, I hate the long talking segments. John Cena used to have to be the MC of the show. He'd come out and like, oh, having a hell of a show tonight. And he'd talk about the events. And Seth is having to do that now. And I think it's hurting Seth. Because he's talking too much about stuff that's not important. And this is where it really hurt the Dean Ambrose angle for me. Because he's in this heated feud with, his former brother, if you will. And he comes out with hey, we had a hell of a show last week. And it's like, boy, you seem to be really upset about Dean.
Yeah.
Where if you had that over Mean Gene, you could send Mean Gene out and we'd be excited and stay tuned because it's like, Gene's out here. And then Gene could do the master of ceremonies. We had a hell of a show. The pay-per-view was this is going on. But, once he's done Braun Strowman and this guy, but, the thing we really want to talk about tonight is we want to talk about Dean Ambrose. And we need to know what Seth Rollins thinks about. So Seth Rollins get out here, and then Seth can just come out and do his passionate 2-minute, damn you, Dean Ambrose.
Or just wrestle, which is what he's best at.
But if he needs to cut a promo.
If he needs to cut a promo, he can get it over with.
He can just come in, and that's where, too, some of the great promos of all time, it's like, I don't remember Dusty talking for 20 minutes. I don't remember.
Hell no.
And retro, when you let Piper talk for 20 minutes, he's all over the place.
Yes.
Let him talk for 2 to 5.
Well, here's another thing, Lance. I will keep it quick because I've ranted about Seth and his goofy tweet for like show upon show now. But I got a couple other things I got to say. When this fucking guy and all these guys talk about how they got to write 3 hours every week, okay? You don't have to write 3 hours every week. Well, first off, he said 5. All right, no one's writing 5 hours. You got split crews, okay? So of those split crews, nobody's writing 3 hours of television because there's fucking wrestling matches on the show. So maybe you're writing, I don't know, maybe 90 minutes because there's 40 minutes minus commercials. That's 120 minutes, okay? There's actually 2 hours that need to be written. And of those 2 hours, maybe an hour of that is wrestling matches. You got to write an hour of TV every week, okay? So of that hour or so that you're writing, who the fuck ever said you had to write everybody's fucking promo? Right?
Yep.
When in wrestling history was everyone's promo scripted from beginning to end and you had to read the goddamn script and sit in the back and memorize the fucking thing? Like, never until today. You shouldn't have to write anybody's promos. Like, the writing of the show should be opening segment, this is the match, this person goes over, if there's an angle, here's the angle. This person's cutting a promo. Back to Mean Gene. This is the match. That's it. That's all you should have to do.
Well, that's booking a show, though.
That's what you should be doing. No one needs to write a show.
Well, but this is the self-fulfilling prophecy. They've got 30 writers. They want to keep their jobs. They have to write stuff. Because if they actually went to Vince and went, we don't really have to write these promos. We can just let these guys do them themselves. They'd all get fired.
Well, I don't want to see the writers fired, but like, what do we need any writers for? Why can't Vince sit in the fucking pool like he used to with his fucking pad and write down a couple things and we're going to TV?
Yeah.
I know that's an extreme. Like, I know that's never going to happen. No. That's an extreme, okay? But that's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's gone so far the other direction that now people are bitching in a $5 billion company that it's hard to write 3 hours of television.
The one defense I will give them now that, especially in 2018, we're so sensitive now that if you just go, hey, you got 5 minutes to cut a promo, I would imagine at least once or twice a week, someone's going to say something that's going to get them in hot water.
Well, probably, yeah.
But that's where you pick the one or two guys that you trust to cut live promos. You make the other guys do pre-tapes backstage until they get good at it. But you've got to be careful. It was just funny. I think it was Jimmy Jacobs. If not, I apologize, Jimmy Jacobs. But he was on, Killing the Town with Cyrus the one time. And he was talking about how, the importance of writing. It's like, if we didn't write these promos for everybody would just be out there saying, I'm going to kick your ass. And then I watched like 2 or 3 wrestling shows after that, and there was only 2 good promos on them. And there were guys going, I'm going to kick your ass. Because it's like, at the end of the day, that's the root of wrestling. Now, you don't want everyone saying exactly that, but go back and watch Steve Austin's promos. He was going to kick Vince McMahon's ass. Go look at Dusty Rhodes. He was going to kick Ric Flair's ass.
What the hell else do I want somebody to talk about? Their grocery list?
And that's
which The Rock could pull off.
When I did the Road Warrior Hawk tribute podcast, when I was still doing Killing the Town, I loved Hawk's promos. And I was pulling up a lot of Hawk promos to splice between the interviews with people. And I was talking to Rachel Ellering about it, and it's like, I loved his promos, and it's like, I just mentioned that it's like, they always just talk about beating people up. And she says that was the advice her dad gave Hawk and Animal, because they didn't practice promos, they just went out. And he said, if you ever get lost, just talk about kicking somebody's ass and beating people up. That were the Road Warriors. And it's like, yeah. It's like, at the end of the day, it's like, if you're going to beat somebody up, it's like, well, I can see that on a wrestling show.
But you know what else is with Hawk especially? Like, Hawk would start his promo, I don't even know what the fuck he was talking about, like 90% of the time.
All over.
You know what I mean? But, like, it was memorable. Like, I couldn't tell you one promo that anybody cut on Raw Monday. Like, everyone just, like, did a bunch of promos written by some dudes or some women. I don't even know who wrote them. Just people. 20-year-old people wrote some promos for people that they did on Raw Monday. Nothing sticks out. I mean, they kind of stick out because, like, Braun Strowman's, like, very wooden. He's kind of like a cartoon character. And, Seth is, I don't know, whatever. But, like, there's no Hawk. There's no anybody. Like, I watch those old Crockett shows. Everybody is different. Arn is different than Tully. Tully is different than Lex.
Jimmy
Valiant's different from anybody. Like, everybody was totally different, and they weren't all good promos, but they were all different. It was like a bunch of different people. That's the whole thing. There were a bunch of different people. And, like, when you were a kid, you loved the Road Warriors, okay? But you probably also had another favorite or two, right?
Yeah, Bulldogs.
Yeah, and if I went on Observer Live and I said, everybody tell me who your favorite random wrestler was growing up, they're all going to give you some goofy answer. You ever notice that? Like, oh man, when I grew up, I was such a big fan of Kamala. You always have someone that says that.
You remember the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD?
Yeah.
And I laugh because they're burying Warrior for his terrible promos. And they had Edge on.
Yeah.
And he recited from memory
the
Warrior promo on Hogan from WrestleMania 6. And I'm like, if a kid remembers the promo word for word 12 years later, that's a damn good promo.
Yes. And like today, if you ask like some random kid, like, who's your favorite wrestler? I mean, are you really going to get people saying like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of somebody totally random on the rosters, like Leo Rush. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think that exists anymore. Like, I think the people just generally like who they're supposed to like now, because everybody's the same, except for the people that they really push to the forefront to stand out. Back then, everybody stood out from the top to the bottom. Maybe they weren't all great. Maybe some of them sucked. Maybe whatever. But like, everybody had a different personality that you could sort of get behind.
But I think too, and I mentioned it with Vinny one time, just DMing him. It was, one of these sloppier Bryan Knobs matches, if you will, because Vinny loves a mean guy match where it's just out there and it's ugly. And I pointed out, it's like, I loved that too, because nothing made my match stand out as smooth more than a Bryan Knobbs.
Than an ugly match.
Ugly match.
Yeah.
And we need...
That's like when we used to watch the ones from 95, the 95 WCW shows.
With Mongo.
And I was like, dude, it's like watching UFC. You got all these crazy fucking matchups here. Like, you got Meng versus Rey Mysterio. Name one time we'll get a Rey Mysterio-Meng match today. Never! Because everybody wrestles exactly the same. They have to make everybody the way that they think that they should be, and that is a detriment. It is so much cooler when you just got a whole bunch of crazy fuckers. They all talk different. They all wrestle different. You put them together, you don't know what you're going to get. You're like, oh my God, Meng and Ray. Can you imagine? And it would be awesome.
Mongo and Hoovy.
Mongo and Hoovy. Like, it'd be fucking terrible, but you wouldn't be able to stop watching it. You know what I mean? Because, like, Hoovy's going to try something crazy and Mongo's going to fuck something up, but it'd be awesome.
Yeah, but if you get Bret Hart and Chris Benoit in the next segment, that stands out even more.
Man, it's sad. What's happened?
Baskin Robbins, man. We need 31 flavors.
We need at least 31 flavors. All right, what else do we have here on your list of things to
I'd like to
fix
put
about
over
this show? On this positive show here today.
Can we go to a two-man booth?
No.
Why?
They won't let you. Because they have to do things the way that they're supposed to be done.
Do you remember when...
That's the biggest problem with this show.
Do you remember when Vince was on Austin's podcast on the network?
Yeah.
And Austin asked him, it's like, why don't we just go back to when it was like you and Bruce and Pat sitting by your pool? And he's like, well, we have to evolve. And Steve's looking at him going, but why? It's like, well, it's television. And it's like, but is it better? And name a three-man booth that's better than a two-man booth.
There isn't one.
There isn't one. Ask anybody. Pick a fan. Favorite announce team. It'll always be, Vince and Jesse or Bobby and
Ross
Gorilla.
And Lawler.
Ross and Lawler. Joey and Cyrus. Whoever. But never...
Even Joey alone. A one-man booth is better than a three-man booth.
Well, you always... You're the third wheel. We're having a conversation, and it's like Tony doesn't chime in a whole lot because we're having a conversation. And that's where, too, you miss the... And I've heard Ross a million times on podcasts and stuff. And it's like, nobody knows announcing better than Jim Ross. He's like, you need to lay out now and again.
Yeah, just shut up.
But with three people, you never do, because it's what I mentioned with the writers. It's like, well, we have to write so that we save our job. It's like, if you're the third man and it's been 10 minutes and you haven't said anything yet, you're trying to look for that opening so you can get in a comment. And it's the one time that they finally lay out because something needs to be left alone for a second. And it's like, well, here's my chance. Percy Watson jumps in. And nothing against Percy Watson, but it's like, if he wasn't on the
never has anything to add. And if he does, it's never like a positive.
And it's not his fault.
No.
Anyone in that position, it's like, how much opinion do you need? You got the guy that's a play-by-play, you got a guy adding some color, and you got the guy that fills the gaps that are supposed to be there.
I have no idea where they get this idea that they need a three-person booth. Like, what three-person booth did they witness that was successful?
I don't know.
Where did this even come from? I don't understand. This is low on the list of issues, but it is an issue because I hate the commentary.
Well, and that's why I think it's high on the list of issues because, and this is something too, and I need to do more of it. I used to do the tribute commentaries when people passed, and then I realized at one point, like, maybe I should, thank the people when they're still alive. And I wrote a long, 2-page tribute commentary to Jim Ross, and I just emailed it to him. And I just talked about how we've all got our favorites in wrestling and so forth, but it's like, I don't think there's a person alive that has made more matches better than Jim Ross.
Yeah.
Because on a show, he'll make every single match better, where Shawn Michaels only makes his own match better. And to that end, if your commentating is bad, it makes every single segment on the show bad. And I think in that regard, it's like we need to rein that in so there's less bickering, there's less plugging, they said this on Twitter. It's like, no, call the action.
God, I watched some of these Jim Ross matches, and it's like Ross's call, exactly like you said, makes the match so much better. And these three-man crews today, for whatever reason, like I know that Corey's good, but he's not anymore. You know what I mean? And Renee was good when she started, but she's not anymore. And I've never thought Cole was good. He's particularly not good now. And I just watch the shows, and they're so bad now that literally for the announcers, I don't even listen to them. I try to not even hear them as I watch the show. And then when I do hear them, it's something that makes me mad. How is this a positive as a wrestling fan? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing they say that adds to it. Like, I sit here and I have to do my own commentary because I watch it. It's like, you didn't even mention this. Like, how the fuck can you not mention this? Like, this is a big part of the story. What are you doing not mentioning this? Nobody thought about it, or they're busy being yelled at to say something else. Like, I don't know. I shouldn't be having to do commentary for the shows. That's their job. I should be able to sit and enjoy it, have them tell me what I need to know, and drop a couple hints here and there. Like, Vince used to always drop hints about what was coming when he was announcer. He knew what was coming. I mean, obviously the announcers can't do that now because fucking even Vince doesn't know what's coming. But in general, like, that was the role of the announcer.
That's the thing I always thought was funny. When Joey Styles went to WWE, and, you know, he was pretty much told, it's like, you don't call the action anymore, we're about telling stories.
But they don't!
But the thing that's funny, it's like, the match is supposed to tell a story, and by calling the action correctly, you help tell that story.
Yes!
And that's what Jim Ross was so good at, and Joey Styles was so good at, that he could explain the emotion behind what they're doing. He could also explain, and it's things that I teach with my fundamentals. It's like, turning the proper way to relieve the pressure on a hold. It's like, it makes the chin lock seem more important when you explain what's being done with it. And I've used this example on the show with you before. I'm pretty sure it's like, Randy Orton is not the only one of this, but he's the king of the chin lock, for crying out loud.
Not nowadays. Everyone is.
But has anyone ever once mentioned that, you know, maybe he uses that chin lock to work on the neck and loosen up the neck to set up for the RKO?
Never.
To tell the story of the match.
I've never heard that.
And it just adds something. And this is where, too, to me, it's like, because I was this way as a fan, which is why I love Jim Ross so much. Engage me intellectually. And it's the same thing with MMA when you've got a good color guy explaining that he's shifting his weight. He's trying to move his hips. He's trying to get into a mount. I didn't know that's what you needed to do because I don't know jiu-jitsu. But if Joe Rogan can explain that to me, if he can just, immobilize that one arm, he can, okay, I'll pay attention. Because if you don't know, because I'm not a black belt in jiu-jitsu like you, or I don't have Joe Rogan explaining to me, it's just two guys laying on the floor humping, and I'm like, this is bad. But once you explain what's going on, I can be engaged intellectually.
Yeah, but the one thing is, like, this is all great, except I don't know how many people even work like that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there used to be stories to matches. Like, people would sit down and they would get a finish, and they would come up with an idea to, like, work around whatever they were doing, or a body part or something to set up the finish, or they'd think about the psychology of the match and everything like that. Now it's like you got a bunch of agents, and it seems like every match is largely the same. Like, there's no story to tell. I mean, the story is that guy kicked out of that move. That guy kicked out of that move. That guy kicked out of that move. You know what I'm saying? Like, do we even have that kind of psychology that you could even tell? Like, if you called Raw on Monday, it's you and me calling Raw. With all the matches that we see on Raw, can we really go in there and tell the stories of the matches? Because it seems to me like there ain't much of a story to tell. Oh, he did a dive to the outside. We're heading to a break.
Well,
there was heat during the break. I don't know what it was.
But I think that would help bring it back, because you're right. Because you might, and this is where you'd really run into a mess. But I used to, again, I'd occasionally go to the announcer, go, this is the story I'm telling.
Sure.
When I did the Ring of Honor match with Mike Bennett, it's like I sent notes to
That's
Kevin
totally
Kelly
different.
and someone else. And it's like, this is the story we're telling, help us along. And if they didn't have to worry about, plugging.
That's a storytelling company.
But
in the ring,
if you tried it as an announcer and you might start explaining that, he's working on his leg to do something, and then he jumps up and does jumping jacks and, runs and does 3 topes in a row. And then you're like, oh, I kind of look dumb now. But that's where if everybody pays more attention to the details, maybe everyone will help piggyback each other.
Because it is weird, because, like, sometimes you'll actually watch a Raw match and, like, Seth will have his leg worked on. Remember that period where every week, like, his knee was being destroyed? Then he has to do his 3 dives. And, like, every now and then, the announcers would actually be talking about his leg. And then he'd go for his 3 dives, and I swear to God, Renee would say something like, well, I guess it's not hurt that bad. Like, what? And she's right, but this is dumb.
Yes.
So it's almost like as a commentator, you got to cover for the lack of psychology in these matches.
Well,
I don't know what's going on.
Everyone's got to work together on that front somewhat, for sure. But again, I think the commentary makes the whole show better if you can improve it. And it's not. I know I couldn't do it as well as the people that are doing it now, especially with someone in my ear telling me what to say and when to say. But yeah, I thought Corey was better at it when he started. And Renee, sadly, I thought she was such a great interview person.
She was.
She was phenomenal.
She was the best one they had.
And when they moved her to commentary, I'm like, I don't think she's as good at this job as she was at the other, because she was great at the other. But that's too. Now, granted, they can always change their mind, but it's like, I hate when they do this. She's the permanent. It's like, oh, never use the word permanent in wrestling. That's why, again, I think Baron has to lose, because if he wins, he's supposed to be the permanent general manager.
Not if Vince fires him.
Nothing should be permanent in wrestling ever. That's
right. All right, before we go, one last fun thing. Your boy Tyler Breeze.
Yes.
Showed up at NXT as a megastar.
Crazy, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't crazy. It was it's just the way things go down there. Because a babyface company.
Yeah, and the fans want to like the company because the company's a babyface, and he showed up. He was, I would argue, as or more over than anybody on the main roster on main roster shows.
Yep.
He main evented.
Yep.
Had a fantastic match with Ricochet.
Yep.
And it was so great. I absolutely loved it. And I don't watch NXT regularly, but when I heard he was going to work with Ricochet, I'm like, I got to see this. And it was fresh. It was new. He was over. And then I can only imagine how happy he was.
Oh, my God. He looked like the happiest guy in the world. He came out there. He walked to the ring like he was Steve Austin. Like he was the biggest star of the Attitude Era. And he pulled it off. Everyone saw him that way, too. Like, I was just watching Ricochet in the ring, just looking like a guy next to Tyler Breeze. That's ridiculous. But that's how confident he was in there. You don't see that on the main roster.
Well, it's the thing any good worker wants. It's like, that's all you want is a hot crowd and an opponent you can work with and enough minutes to do your job the way you want. And they had, I don't know what it was. I'm guessing it was 12, 15.
Probably about 12 minutes, yeah.
12 minutes with a great guy.
Yep.
And the crowd wanted to see it. It was fantastic. How much time do we have? Do we want to get into?
You can talk about bringing some guys up to the main roster.
Well, this is because he just showed up as this cameo. Dave mentioned something about other shows and talked about how they used to, bring in, they'd bring in a guy from Florida for a Madison Square Garden show. And it's like on the main roster, it's like they could use squash matches. They used them wrong when they did it with Braun and with Nia, because they were the only person getting a squash match every week. And it's like, okay, Nia's beating tomato cans. Everybody else is wrestling real matches. If everybody now and then got squash matches, it wouldn't stand out that you're just being fed jobbers. But what if, the open challenge that, they've done with the U.S. title and Seth's done it with the IC, it's like, what if they did announce that it's an open challenge? And it's like, if this week on Raw, they announced that from the NXT UK brand, Pete Dunne is coming in next week to challenge Seth Rollins, and show a quick highlight video of Pete Dunne in the first hour of Raw. Give the dude a squash match of 3-4 minutes to hit all his stuff, look as impressive as you can, and then have a quick little promo with Renee Young or Mean Gene if you want to bring him back, and just have him cut a promo that he's challenging Seth Rollins next week. I'm like, I'd tune in for that. Dude's awesome. He just went out there, hit all his finishes and his moves to get them over, so we know what they are. You help get over the NXT UK brand, because you can have the announcers mention, it's like, hey, every Wednesday at this time on the WWE Network, you can watch these guys wrestle all the time. And then you could bring up a dude from NXT just for a one-shot like that. You could bring in the Evolve guy, for crying out loud. Just make your show.
Bring in anybody.
Anybody. And that's where, too, if you were going to, before you signed, what the hell's his name? Matt Riddle. Before you signed him, you could have just brought him in as, this is a guy out there in the independent scene we've seen a lot. Let's go take a look at him and give him a quick squash match, let him have a good match with Seth Rollins, and then announce that he's been signed and he's going to be reporting to NXT. Like,
sure.
Cool.
Hey, listen, I'm not opposed to the idea that everybody, every week, 2 people at random squash jobbers. Don't care who it is. Can be Seth, can be, maybe not Corbin, but like anybody. I don't even care.
Well, it'd be a good rehab.
You're not going to run people off.
It'd be a good rehab for Dolph, who got murdered last week.
Dolph comes out, he does all his big moves on somebody, pins him in the middle.
And
anybody.
You have a big title. I'm the number 1 contender for a title match at the pay-per-view. Give me a warm-up match on the go-home show rather than another competitive match.
Destroy somebody.
Just destroy somebody, hit my moves, and stand there.
Yep.
get my hand raised.
Why did they move away from squashes?
Monday Night Wars. If it was a squash match, they'd switch to the channel.
That I think
Doesn't
they
exist
thought.
anymore.
I think that they thought that they were going to switch to the channel. But I don't think that in a 2-minute squash match during the Monday Night Wars, anybody was switching the channel if it was a star doing a squash match. I don't believe that.
Well, Nitro's not
but it doesn't
there.
even matter. So
Nitro.
yeah, when they're going to switch to football, they do that anyway. You know how much fun a good squash match is? Like you mentioned Baron Corbin and Nia Jax. Those Corbin squashes were fun. Come out there, beat the shit out of guys. Why do you think James Ellsworth got a career for like 2 years? He fucking did a job in a squash match for Braun Strowman. That got both guys over. There's no reason you can't go out there and do squash matches.
2 a week, and everybody gets them now and again. Just
I do 1 an hour. You can do 3 a week.
Yeah,
That's not the end of the world. It's way better than some of these nothing happening matches with 2 guys nobody cares about. At least have a guy destroy somebody.
Or stretching a
And you can have a
segment.
finish.
Instead of stretching a talking segment to 18 minutes, have it at 12 and send out a squash.
Yep. All right, Lance, let's get some plugs in here.
All right. Storm Wrestling Academy, or a wrestling school in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, the wrestling capital of the world. I'm the guy in the ring with you every day. I'm
Teaching you to do squash matches.
teaching people how to get over, tell a story, and work safe and not kill anybody. That's an important part. You can go to stormwrestling.com for information on that. Sessions in January, May, and September every year. I haven't had a whole lot of sleep. You can follow at Storm Wrestling Academy on Instagram, and you can follow me at Lance Storm on Twitter. And if you're in the Seattle area and you listen to this as soon as it goes up,
That's right.
live Q&A.
If you're listening to this December 15th tonight, we've got a live Q&A in Bellevue, Lunchbox Lab, I believe. Right, Tony? Lunchbox Lab? It's coming up tonight. I believe the whole party, the Defy Christmas party, starts at 6. We'll be doing the Q&A somewhere around 6. It'll be tonight. Don't worry.
And if you're watching on video, the Fight for Evers shirt is available. It's a Rachel Ellering shirt.
That's right.
Who's Rachel Evers whenever she works for WWE.
That's right. DefyWrestling.com is where you can get your tickets. I think there are a few left. Maybe not. So head up there right now if you want to attend the Q&A. Me, Lance, Filthy Tom Lawler.
First time ever.
Yeah, first time ever, all in the same place at the same time. Maybe the last time. Who knows? Never know what'll happen. So check it out tonight, Defy Wrestling. And that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.